Hi guys, welcome to another Kamicarz Creation video. The supercharger is finally in there. It's been a big couple of days after I got those extractors, sorting it all out, getting it to fit. It definitely went together so much easier than before, so it was a really good decision buying those extractors and putting those new studs in. But I've done a heap of work on it, and it's looking pretty damn good. I'm really happy with the end result. Looks great in the engine bay, and I think I've got it looking reasonably tidy. So I'll go through and show you what I have been doing. Enjoy. I've just started tidying up a bit of the wiring, and there was a few concerns that I didn't have a grommet in that hole I put in the firewall, so I've definitely got a grommet in there. Had to run it over all of the wires. That was a bit of a challenge, but it's finally in there and secured off, and I'm just starting to set up the supercharger. So over here I've got one of the packers on, and just working my way through them. I'll just pull it up with the front couple. So I've got a packer and a nut on there, and I'm going to slowly work my way through. I'll pull it up a little bit with those couple, and then I'll start to secure it off. That's a huge milestone. It's taken a lot of behind the scenes stuff to get this right, and a lot of it was about where I started from with my motor. The kit has just fitted up beautifully once I've got everything right on my motor. Replacing those studs in the head was a huge part of that. They're 3/8 UNC to 3/8 UNF, and they're the right length to do the job, and that was a few of the things I was struggling with. The extractors now are 12 port, where the original ones I had on there were 9 port extractors, and I still haven't had anyone tell me exactly what the difference is in the studs, but definitely some differences there. So I've just fitted that fuel rail on. The manifold is bolted on and secure. The injector rail is fastened back on, and the injectors are plugged in. How good is that? Love the look of that. That's what it's all about. Bit of work to do on the fuel lines, and a few more sensors, and getting closer. I've pretty much connected up all of the sensors, so I've got the crank trigger down there. Come across to here, I've hooked up the coil pack. As I showed you a second ago, all of the injectors were done, and then over the back here I have the throttle position sensor and the manifold pressure sensor all hooked up. I've got a bit of tidying up to do inside the car, and I've still got to do that fuel rail. But while I had a bit of spare time, I've also set up the tensioner. So that was a challenge. I haven't quite got the adjustment exactly right, but it has got good tension on the belt. Shane said about halfway in here, halfway in its movement, but I'm nearly maxed out, so I can grab a little bit by the position of these two things. I'll have a look at that, but the main thing, it's got tension on at the moment. It's only when that belt gets a bit of slack that it will need adjusting. I've also, if you can see down through here, the main support for the supercharger and the manifold, because of that weight hanging out there, I've been down and tightened up all of those. I just had them sitting loose, very close to the extractors there, but it does work. Then I've put a little bit of load on that tie rod, and I've just got to lock those lock nuts off yet. So good progress. Little bit of work still to do on the thermo fans, and the thermostat to go in and the cap to go on, and I've got to do the vacuum line, so that's next. Looking pretty awesome. I'm just looking at positioning my fuel pressure regulator in this sort of position. I think I can make a bracket to come off the thermostat housing bolt, come straight out to position that there, and then it's just a small line into the fuel rail, or out of the fuel rail into the pressure regulator, and then this side runs back off to the overflow tank. I've now hooked up the fuel rail that you can see, but also hooked up that vacuum line that runs into the ECU. This is my main brake booster line and PCV. I'm not sure about how I've got that set up, but I'll have a look at that. And you can see the fuel lines running over here. I end up not positioning the fuel pressure regulator there. I just didn't have enough room. So I've brought it across and just mounted it on the inner guard. I haven't got my gauge in it at the moment because I actually dropped it and damaged it. So I've got to buy a new one of those. But she's looking pretty good. I've still got a bit of work to do on the radiator. I've actually put the thermostat and thermostat housing on there, and everything's hooked up and ready to go. She needs some battery power. The battery being flat from leaving the door open and the interior light being on, but getting very, very close. So I need to charge that battery up. It'll be Monday tomorrow, and I'll look at getting a new fuel pressure gauge so I can do a double check on that fuel pressure. It is pressuring up the fuel rail. The Carter pump is working, and the main pressure pump. I had a bit of a leak in the boot, and I've fixed that. And it's pressurizing up, and there doesn't seem to be any other leaks at the moment. So not too bad. Getting very excited about it. May run very soon. So guys, how exciting is that? It's definitely not running perfect, but she is running. And as Shane said, it's sitting on a base map to get it firing and get it running. And that's what it did. I did have a little ignition problem. The ECU and injectors obviously need power on crank, and I didn't have the ignition wire to the right place, and I have got that to a place now where it does fire, but I do have an issue with when I turn the key off, it doesn't stop. Luckily, I've got a kill switch next to the ECU, and that seems to nail it. But I'll just have to fiddle with that. As I said to you before, I'm not an electrician. I really haven't done a lot, but this has been a great experience. I have done a lot more on this car and with this installation than I've ever done before. And if I can encourage you to just get in and have a go, following wiring diagrams isn't that hard. You tend to work your way through it and learn as you go, and that's what I'm all about, learning in the shed. As I've said many times, I don't know it all. I'm just willing to have a go, willing to learn, and then share it with you guys to hopefully encourage you to have a bit of a go for yourself. Saves a lot of money that way. Behind me I've got the laptop, and I've got to get and learn something new again. I'm a software person. I love software. And I'm trying to pull together software and the hardware in this car so that I can work out a bit better tune, work out how, and read the data. That's the biggest thing about software. I can start it up, I can find the menu systems and all that, but analysing the data and knowing what it says is a big part for me now. I may get to the point where I've got to send this to an engine tuner, and I don't mind because I'm a bit impatient and I want to drive it. But I really want to learn a little bit about tuning cars, and that's the next phase for me. So guys, she started and ran. I've still got to do a little bit of work. I haven't got the radiator hooked up yet. So I'm going to get all that set up now, and on Wednesday it goes down for a new exhaust, so it'll be much more pleasant to start up. She's pretty wild straight out of the extractors. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Thank you to all the new subscribers. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and keep up to date. See you guys.